Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J, here with Arike L. Ayala, and we are back once again, Arike, because all of this women's sports stuff is not stopping, and I'm so glad that it's not. But right now, we are talking about the WNBA expansion, and we're going to try to explain what's going on in this WNBA expansion draft, I should say, because there's a lot that is going on with this thing.
Yes. And try being the operative word here. There's a lot of information. It is a condensed, truncated timeline because it took a little bit to get that collective bargaining agreement together, which we've talked about. We had a little mini ep to talk about that as well. But this is important. And so why don't we, Alicia, kind of start with some key dates before we break down the main details that everyone needs to know before the expansion draft.
Yeah, there's a lot of key dates, especially Arike just said, it took a little while to get here. So now we're on a fast track timeline, but these are important. So put them on your calendar. Friday, March 27th, the coin toss for the expansion draft happens. On Sunday, March 29th, protected and unprotected player lists are due, which is very important. And we will be breaking that down a little bit more later on. Friday, April 3rd, the expansion draft, the actual draft, is going to be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And it's important to note that's right before the final four games are being played. So we're going to have some back-to-back, some WNBA and some women's college basketball back-to-back. And then April 7th through the 18th is free agency, this is the biggest WNBA free agency that I can remember in my lifetime, for sure.
Right. And we thought last year or even a couple of years ago, while players were getting acclimated and knowing that a new CBA was coming, we started seeing the writing on the wall. But it's upward of 100 players, Alicia, that have to be put on new teams. But again, before all of that happens, we do get an expansion draft, and we're going to break some of the main details down. We mentioned that the coin toss is on Friday, March 27th. So that's coming up right around the corner here. Now, what is the coin toss and why are we having a coin toss? Well, there are two expansion teams. There's only the one event, but two teams are participating in the expansion draft. So there will be a coin toss to determine who gets the first pick in the expansion draft. Or I should say, the winner of the coin toss has the right to choose. They get to either take the first selection in the expansion draft or the sixth pick in the upcoming college draft, which we will talk about. We know that's coming up in April. Whoever picks first in the expansion draft will receive the seventh pick in the entry draft, in the college draft. And the draft is considered a snake draft. So that basically means, I prefer saying double dutch. I don't know. But it's an in, out. So that's how it will go throughout. Whoever holds the first pick of the round will pick second in the second round. Maximum of 12 picks per team will be made, one player from an existing team per round. Now, you don't have to pick, as we saw with Golden State Valkyries. They actually did not select a player from the Seattle Storm last year, so you do not have to select from every team, but only two players from each of the existing teams total will be picked. So, for example, this is a hypothetical. Let's just say that Portland gets the first pick and they pick A'ja Wilson, and then Toronto gets that second pick in the expansion draft and they take Chelsea Gray. Guess what? Nobody else from Vegas is being taken. Again, those are hypotheticals, and we will tell you why, because as we mentioned, the existing WNBA teams have to, Alicia, provide a roster. And this roster will include all of the players, including players that maybe didn't play because of injury, that were kind of a draft and stash, so have not actually reported to the WNBA. They have a full list of their roster, and then they have to designate these players, Alicia, as either protected or unprotected in the expansion draft.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really tricky. It gets really tricky on both sides, right? Because if I'm not protected, we're going to have a talk. However, protected and unprotected players includes every player to which they have rights as of the final day of the 2025 regular season.
Yes.
It designates a maximum of 5 protected players, which will not be available for selection. So you can't even like look at those players when they're protected. Each expansion team can only select one unrestricted free agent. The new rule allows Fire and Tempo may draft pending unrestricted free agents, even if the player can no longer be designated a core player. It's important to note too that the Fire and Tempo, can only, I think we kind of talked about this, but can only select one player in the expansion draft who will be an unrestricted free agent. Also, and this is coming directly from Jack Malone, he had a great article on cbssports.com. So if you want to go take a look at it, make sure you do. But also, unlike the Valkyries expansion draft, an unrestricted free agent may be selected even if they can no longer be designated as a core player. Very important to know that.
Yes.
And the selecting team will be the only one who can offer the UFA a supermax contract. However, it does not give them exclusive negotiating rights. Players can sign anywhere, but the expansion team is the only one they can sign a supermax with. So, listen, it's a lot. It's a lot. I also want to say unrestricted free agents with no core eligibility remaining could sign for the regular max with any team.
Yes.
So many pieces.
There's a lot there. And this is when, although I might like to get paid like a WNBA general manager, I'm glad that I am not a WNBA general manager, because there are a lot of things. And again, in Jack's article, he also talks about, again, no longer having to be designated or, an unrestricted free agent may be selected even if they can't be a core player. That's significant because the Valkyries, who had no core in that expansion draft, I should say, a player who had no core eligibility remaining was automatically ineligible for selection. And so that is why we saw very unique things happening with players who we assumed were protected versus unprotected. That's another thing. We didn't get the list the league did not put out the lists of protected and unprotected players. I don't know if that's going to happen, but this can make things a little messy for certain teams, Alicia. And we're going to do our best to talk about next what we want to see from a few teams. We're just going to talk about a few teams because, again, it's a lot.
It is a lot. So we're definitely going to get into that and make sure that all of you, because you're a part of this conversation always, if there's something that you want clarification on, or you want to clarify, or even just a statement about what is going on in this expansion draft, please drop it in the comments. And while you're at it, subscribe, because we're going to be having so many conversations around this. This is just the first one of many. And like we said, the WNBA stuff is coming up fast. So you want to be locked in with us on all levels so that we have this for you, and you know exactly when it's coming out. And we also want you a part of the conversation. So make sure whatever you're feeling, as long as it's good and we don't have to clap back, you know what I'm saying? Put that down in the comments. This conversation is not within this pod only. We want to keep it going. So, when I look at this and when we break this down, it's a lot to digest, but what is the most confusing part for you, Erica?
Like I said, the unrestricted and core designation and how that relates to what we now know is the new Supermax. I think those are things that are going to be difficult for GMs to have to navigate, because you have to kind of project your salary cap, even though you really don't know beyond the expansion draft who is guaranteed to be on your squad, because we haven't had free agency yet. And it's not a very long window of free agency, nor to kind of get a feel for what's happening. So, I think that, and the way I would approach it is just to start with who are the players that I absolutely want to protect, and then go from there, see where the dust settles, and then have quick conversations when it comes to players and figuring out what if you're going to offer contracts, but then what that offer is going to be.
Yeah, I think it's not so much the confusion for me with what is happening in this draft. I think the biggest, I guess, component that is going to muddy all of this up is that we have a historic CBA and people are looking for the highest amount of money that they can. And so that throwing that in there makes all of this confusing because money is going to be paramount for a lot of people, as it should be, right? You're setting yourself up not only for this year, but for the future. And you want to make sure that you're getting as much money, especially players who have been in the league for a long time. And a lot of those are the unrestricted free agents. You want to make sure that you're setting yourself up right for the years that you have remaining. Allegiance isn't necessarily the biggest thing when it comes to this. Not to say that it always has been, but that is what is going to make this the most confusing for me, is that aspect of it, because it's a huge aspect that you have to take into account when you're taking these chances with certain players.
Right. I mean, there's a really good chance that there are some teams that look completely different than they did just a season ago because of all of these moving parts. And again, if you like chaos, which we talk about liking chaos with Tarika Foster Brasby when we were on CBS Sports Network earlier at the time we're recording today. But yeah, this is chaos for sure.
Chaos on every single level. Chaos, confusion, we've talked about that. But what about the most intriguing rule out of all of this that we know of so far?
You know, I honestly think for me it's all the same. The intrigue, the confusion, the where I'm like, again, I'm glad I'm not a GM. It's all related to Supermax contract. It's related to there being 2 expansion teams. For me, like that is the chunk of it. Like I have so many feelings and thoughts that I just keep going back to how, now that we know that, you know, players and core designation is a little bit different. We see that it has impacted the expansion draft. And I think there is overall a little bit more autonomy. I think that's effectively what the new CBA and removing the core designation after a certain period of time is all about, more autonomy for the player. But expansion drafts are kind of the antithesis to that. So the intrigue again for me is how are GMs going to navigate that? And I've said this before on CBS Sports HQ, but I think we're going to find out pretty quickly the GMs who have a good mastery of this and how they're going to finagle things, not just after the expansion draft. Because, you know I was definitely like, what you mean you ain't pick nobody from Seattle? But that was actually a master move from Seattle to try and keep their roster as intact as possible, because you didn't have an expansion team plucking a player from your squad, so you have a little more control. What are the moves that GMs are going to make to maybe try and figure that out now that the rules are a little different?
Every part of this is intriguing. Every single part of it is chess, not checkers, right? Like it's very much, but a thing right off the bat that really intrigues me is, you know, do you choose between receiving the first selection in the expansion draft of the 6 picks or in the college draft, or like, what do you pick first? Because I think it'll really be telling for that particular expansion team. Like, what are they banking on? Are they banking on the future, or do they want somebody who's ready right now?
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know, that is really intriguing to me just off the bat. Like, if we have the ability to pick that, which one are we doing and why? Especially when you look at the scope of the college draft, like who do you think you would get at that point that you would want to hold out for? You know, man, you could literally do a documentary on this, and I hope somebody is. I hope somebody really is, because, you know, it'd be a lot to look behind that curtain, and I'm sure there's things that these teams would not want to divulge. But the whole process of getting to a team like the Valkyries is so just, I would want to see every single part of it. I would be glued to my seat, because there's everything that we broke down, and we just did high level things. There are decisions that could potentially make or break your expansion for this season, but also seasons to come.
Right.
So The whole thing is intriguing.
Very.
That sounds like a cop-out answer, but it's just the truth.
But it really is. I mean, I said the same dang thing. I said the same thing. I was like, I can't even think about other things. I'm still trying to figure out what's happening with this core designation Supermax.
Right. And so a lot of breakdowns coming your way, because as these things unfold, there will be a lot of conversations to have on choices, on why teams did, pick the way that they picked, and so on and so forth. But let's talk about who we would protect on some of these teams. Man, it's hard when you look at some of these rosters. And also you have to know too, if you don't protect somebody, I'm out. Especially in the way that this is going, I'm out of here. That's just me personally. If you don't want to protect me, I don't know why I'm here when I can go get some money. And that's it.
I mean, yeah. And again, that's a way of thinking about it. But again, we'll find out how these GMs operate, because you would imagine that there is some kind of conversation. I think there's limits, of course, to what the GMs can have conversations about with regard to players at this juncture. But we knew that these expansion teams were coming in, and we know there are more to come. So our general managers and front office staff doing their work to build relationships and get feelers from their players when they're in season or through their agents in season, to get a sense of how these players are feeling. And I think we're going to find out real quick, again, the organizations that have been doing their homework, so to speak. But protected list, again, I think there are, for me, Alicia, there's about 6 teams that make really intriguing kind of high-level conversations and give us a little bit of a maj-page, if you will, of what could happen. And for me, that's the reigning champions, or the incoming defending champions, the Las Vegas Aces, the New York Liberty, the Indiana Fever, the Seattle Storm, the Dallas Wings, particularly with one of their veteran guards, and perhaps also the Minnesota Lynx. Now, I think you can look at these teams, with the exception of Dallas, and these are contenders, right? Indiana really had a great run. So how do they run it back? Also knowing that a lot of their roster and their superstar talent, including Caitlin Clark, were injured, and they still made a deep run into the playoffs. So how valuable were some of those players that weren't originally on your roster, but now, helped you make a deep run and take the Aces, down to the wire in the semifinals. So I think these are all intriguing, but let's start with Las Vegas. I think we can agree on one name for sure that's going to be protected.
How could you not protect A'ja Wilson? That would be a travesty. That would be the worst thing that you could ever do when you have her on your team. And there's been all of these conversations already about her getting the Supermax, as she should. All of this. I mean, people have been saying that from the beginning, and it's like I think we posted something and said they ain't waste no time, as they should not. As they should not.
Absolutely not. And for me, I think Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray are right there with A'ja Wilson. It's a 1-2-3 punch there. We did see that Kelsey Plum opted to move on, but the Aces, they made it work still, and I think that's their core 3 for sure. But are there other players outside of A'ja Wilson, Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray that you think the Aces should protect, or that if you were the Aces, you would protect?
I would protect NaLyssa Smith, for the reason of, when she got to that team last year, you saw a big turnaround. Not to say that it was just her that was doing it, but she made a big impact. You could see that whenever she was on the court, she was doing what she needed to do for that team. And you need a player like that on your team. I mean, yes, you do have A'ja Wilson, Jackie Young. I mean, all of these people that are essential, that are obviously making their impact and leadership and all of those things. But when NaLyssa came in, she definitely made an impact that I think should stay, especially if they want to run it back as they did this year. She just was invaluable as far as I'm concerned to the team, and she's somebody that I would look to protect personally.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think another player here, and a little bit of a mixed bag, but once Jewell Loyd figured out her role and what was the best role for her and for this Aces squad, I mean, the proof is on the trophy shelf, right? So I think that Jewel Lloyd is another player that is still a veteran that has a lot to give in this league. I know has taken a few hits, and there's been conversation, even given how she performed at the Olympics or the performance that she was empowered to give, right? At the Olympics, similarly to her last stop in Seattle. But I do think that she found a home with this Aces squad, and they were for the better. So, I mean, that's the 5 that I would roll with if you're trying to run it back as the Aces.
Yeah, and also with Jewel Lloyd, she totally understood the assignment that she had once she worked through it. I think she asked to come off the bench, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And as a veteran who does bring leadership, she obviously brings skill. That goes without saying. But to know who you are on that team, and especially a team like the Aces, you need those type of players to win a championship. So
yeah,
I would, yes, protect.
100%. Going to another team that has been in contention, 2024 champions, had a tough run, lots of injuries last year, and an early exit, the New York Liberty. This is an intriguing team for so many reasons. And yes, I am from New York, but that's not, in this case, the reason. The reason is that we've talked for the last several seasons that this is a New York Liberty squad that they are built to have multiple waves of attack. And so it was hard to determine the players that you only get 5 protected players. And yes, there are some obvious names, and you're like, okay, like with respect to the WNBA, these are the names, of course, that are obvious. But with respect to how this team was built and how they had that success in 2024, there's some names that it kind of hurt to see them not be protected. But let's just go through our best. For me, I think it's probably a 1-2 punch, maybe a 1-2-3 punch. But I think the 3 names that we're looking at here, Sabrina Ionescu, Breanna Stewart, and probably Jonquel Jones as kind of guarantees.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think you can say New York without saying protect those players. I personally don't think that you can. I mean, Sabrina obviously has an impact now, but she's also pointing towards the future for the New York Liberty. Stewie is Stewie, and JJ is JJ.
Period. Like,
to say anything else.
You really can't. I know that, like, Stewie's been getting a lot of hate. I've been trying to tell y'all, what Stewie has been able to do while nursing injuries, like, come on. Like,
I'm sitting on Stewie.
I've been seeing the social media streets. I've been seeing them social media streets. People got a lot to say about Stewie, and I'm just like, y'all, listen, I'll take Stewie on a bum leg any day, because if that's what she's giving.
Without a doubt. I'm sorry. And if anyone watching, and I really want to know what your argument is. Put it in the comments. I really want to know.
I'm building a team around Stewie. 100%.
All right.
100%.
Well, listen, you mentioned injury, right? And I want to mention a player that has been injured, but there's no way, to me, like, I'm taking her injured all day too, is Betnijah Laney. Like, Betnijah, like, is a player that you are going to get her best every time she is out there on the court, on both ends of the court. Let's be clear.
That part.
And
she got that shot.
And I think that a lot of people would maybe not have her top of mind just because she is coming out of a year of being injured. But she is a player that I absolutely want on my team to bring me to a championship.
100%. This is a defensive pick for me, for sure. Again, we're going to talk about some players that, because you put a Betnijah Laney Hamilton, again, not a wrong choice on your protected list, that leaves some other players who maybe the argument that you make is, do you want a tried and true veteran like Betnijah Laney Hamilton? I say yes. That being said, does it come at the cost of someone who maybe can give you that and has a little bit of a longer runway because they're younger in the league? That's an interesting argument. But I think for me, I'm taking Benajelani Hamilton. And I'm also, unfortunately, the way it's working, the New York Liberty will likely not protect both of their German stars. If I have to pick one, I'm going Leonie Fiebe. I'm going with Leonie.
All day. No disrespect, but absolutely going Leonie.
And see, like, it's all day, but also, gosh, leaving Niara unprotected, leaving Marine unprotected, leaving Rebecca Gardner unprotected, leaving Emma Messiman unprotected after they worked to get her in free agent. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I feel good about this list, and I also feel terrible about this list. And like, I don't feel great.
No, how could you feel great? You only get 5. And that's the crazy part. And that's why we are not the GMs, because I don't want that.
No, Jonathan Kolb, hats off to you, sir. This is a Sophie's Choice, if I ever. That's a movie for those who don't know. Look it up.
Movie reference? No, for sure. That's hard. And I feel conflicted still. But that list isn't, I mean, you can't.
It's not a bad list.
All of those players should be protected.
Yeah, it's not a bad list, which is wild. That's a wild situation to be in.
It is. Another wild situation to be in is Indiana. Now, let's just off top, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark. Protect. Are we?
I mean, again, for me, it's got to be a 1, 2, 3. I probably am going Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark. I don't know how in these streets we gonna act like Kelsey Mitchell ain't been the backbone for the Indiana Fever yesterday, today, tomorrow, and twice on Sunday.
Period.
Child played like till the tank ran out of gas for real, and got you that close.
Yes,
that close to getting through them aces. Come on, man. I'm taking Kelsey Mitchell 100%.
Literally put her blood, sweat, tears, and body on the line.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello? Come on.
I mean, no joke. So yes, those 3 off top.
Mm-hmm.
Now this one is interesting. Lexi Hull.
Listen, I've been putting on for Lexi Hull for a minute. Before Lexi Hull was the Lexi Hull that was keeping this Indiana Fever team afloat in the last 2 seasons. I like how she plays. I think you need a player like Lexi Hull who can plug and play, because you look at what Aaliyah Boston brings. You look at what Caitlin Clark brings. You look at what Kelsey Mitchell brings. Everyone knows their game and still has trouble stopping it. But what if they do stop it? Then you need a player like a Lexi Hull who can facilitate, who can drive, who can pop it from the corner, right? Knock you down shots, and who can be a menace defensively to give a reprieve to any one of or all of the aforementioned superstars that you have on your squad. That's why I mess with Lexi Hull on a squad. Now, we're talking about Indiana, but like, I just love players like that who they give a little bit of everything. And whether folks realize it or not, they might not be the main engine, but they're a part of the horsepower 100%.
Well, and we know on a team, a player like that is essential. I don't care what team you're on. And we could go down the line on every team and pick out a player like that. Yep. And Lexi Hull is that. Now, when it comes to another player, there are some other players that people are talking about, right? And I would lean towards a Natasha Howard, because she's Natasha Howard.
It's Natasha Howard.
Let's be clear. Also, you have that veteran aspect of Natasha Howard that you need on every team as well. When you talk about the role of a Lexi Hull, you need the role of a Natasha Howard.
Agreed.
If not more.
Agreed.
But a lot of people would put Sophie Cunningham in that last part.
And I think Sophie Cunningham is similar in what she can provide to Lexi Hull. And we know that Sophie Cunningham in years past has played effectively 1 through 5, which is wild to say, or at least has defended 1 through 5 for a Phoenix Mercury squad that was really struggling. So another player, plug and play. She can be polarizing for sure with how she gets down. But if she's getting down for your squad, yeah, you're going to take a little bit of that sandpaper. You're going to take a little bit of that moxie. That being said, I think I agree with you. Natasha Howard, the way she's able to move and navigate in the post, having an Aaliyah Boston who effectively is kind of maybe even coming out of her baby vet era, as I like to talk about it, but having a champion. There are not many players who have as many championships as Natasha Howard that are still hooping in the WNBA right now.
And she's hooping.
Hooping. Another player that anchored this Indiana Fever squad when everyone else was going down. Lots of injuries. But the thing, again, that I want to talk about before we move on to a Seattle squad here is Caitlin Clark goes down. Sophie Cunningham goes down. Sid Colson goes down. There were so many injuries on this Indiana Fever squad, and who stepped up? Ari McDonald, Odyssey Sims. And those players are not going to get, realistically, are likely, they're not going to get protected. Like, they're not players that Indiana Fever squad built their franchise around. And it's wild because they were integral in getting Indiana as far as they went. And I just want to, it's more of me giving them a shout out. We know the game, we know the activity that we're doing, and it's very unlikely that those are the players that get protected, especially because we're taking this as, I want these folks on my squad. I'm not even really getting into the gamesmanship of the draft and all of the strategery, because like I said, I don't get paid GM money. I'm going to let the GMs do that. I'm going to just talk about what I know. And what I know is that that's a squad right there. Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, Natasha Howard. Caitlin Clark, we saw what she was doing at the FIBA qualifying tournaments. MVP of the Puerto Rico qualifying tournament when she's healthy, playing with superstars. So a healthy Caitlin Clark coming back, you protecting that. That is your franchise player. Everybody knows that.
Everyone knows that. And then when you look at the other players around her, not to say that they aren't franchise, because Aaliyah Boston is definitely a franchise player, and Kelsey Mitchell. But when you look at that, it's really important of who you're building in addition to having that franchise player and around and supporting that franchise player. And that's going to play into a part of who is protected as well. I do want to bring this to the table really quick. And this is a conversation we've had and we will have again. But when you think of a player like Sophie Cunningham, you said she is polarizing. Obviously, what plays into a lot of this too is marketing. Just going to say this. It is a thing. And so players that are going to bring more people to the table, maybe even a little bit of controversy. I'm not saying this is right, but I'm saying I think that will play into all of this too when you think about the marketing of your team overall and what player is going to add to that as well.
Yeah, and if people replace Sophie Cunningham for, I mean, it's not a like for like position wise, but if she gets replaced for Natasha Howard, do I understand that? Oh yeah. And it's not just a marketing thing as you're getting at, but also because of her basketball. I get that. I mean, and these are our choices.
For basketball at all, but right. I think that's part of it.
Exactly, 100%. Like, and that's real. We know it was a little bit of a trio, right? I'm not going to use that little catchphrase because I am Latina and I ain't using it anyway. But Caitlin Clark and Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham seem to be like a dynamic trio there, right? I'm not mad. I could see it going either way. I would take Howard, but it's not like I'm gonna, die on this hill and go 10 toes all the way down. It's a tough decision for Indiana to make. I could see a few players, and I feel bad. I feel bad for some of those players that were role players, 7-day contract style role players that helped them almost get to a finals that aren't going to be protected. But again, it's not the end all be all. We got to see what happens in the expansion draft. But I do not envy Indiana and New York for sure.
No, I don't envy any of this because it's so hard. This is so hard because when you think of one thing, you're like, all right, we could do this. Then you have to think 10 steps ahead to like why maybe they won't even stay in this and that. I mean, the movement is so hard. It's so incredibly hard. It gives me anxiety and I'm not even picking. Now, It does. Now let's move on to Seattle. Seattle is one of those teams that's absolutely stacked as well. Gabby Williams. Let's start
I'm taking Gabby. I'm taking Gabby and Dom. We ride at dawn.
Dominique Malonga is one of those players that if you do not protect her, you are wild and crazy, because we have seen glimpses of her greatness. She's already a good player. We've seen glimpses of the great player, and the way that she is growing in this league exponentially. The dunks that we saw in Unrivaled that were just her, she is a player that is generational. Generational. Yeah. You do not protect her.
100%. And like I said, when you have the number 2 pick, you play the number 2 pick. I would have liked to see her on the court a little bit more for Seattle, a little bit earlier. But when you have the number 2 pick and there's an expansion draft, you protect the number 2 pick.
Absolutely. And her. I mean, come on. She's just amazing.
Well, Dominique Malonga is the number 2 pick, but yes. Yeah. Okay. Come on.
I know she's the number 2 pick, but I'm just saying, even if she wasn't, she has shown us who she is.
That's it. That's it.
Her.
Listen, top of the list, and you know what? I was listening to a podcast Christina Williams did, and there's so much love that Nneka Ogwumike is getting after these CBA negotiations are wrapped. Listen, I'm protecting Nneka at all costs from everything, including an expansion draft.
24/7, 365. Protected.
That child should not pay for a meal for the foreseeable future. So everybody rally behind Nneka Ogwumike. Come on now.
She's not the only one who did it, but she's the main reason, and she's been the driver of it for years. And doing both and managing both, she shouldn't have to lift a finger or a dollar.
That's right. Take that Supermax to the bank.
Yes.
And keep it there. I'm protecting Nneka Ogwumike. So that's 3 spots already there, Alicia. They only get 2 more.
Skylar Diggins.
Yep.
Skylar Diggins.
Yep.
She is Skylar, point blank, period. What else do we have to say? I mean, obviously, veteran, takes care of it on both ends of the court. Plays one of the hardest players I've ever seen in my life. She's also Skylar Diggins. Okay. And you protect her at all costs.
I agree. And so now it comes to this 5th spot. This was tough because you have Brittany Sykes. You have Erica Wheeler. I mean, Tiffany Mitchell ended up on this team at the end of the season. You have Jordan Horston, Nika Mule. It's tough ultimately, and maybe it's a name thing, but I went with Wheeler. I went with Erica Wheeler.
And I agree, but I do. Erica, obviously, she brings a lot of the team chemistry too, which is so important, but obviously a great player, obviously a vet. But the chemistry is huge for me here, especially with this squad and seeing who all is on the team and how she has been so integral in their team just as a leader. I think it's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's so hard though. Yeah, it's so hard though, because on this team, you could also look at, okay, where are we now and what do we think we can accomplish this next season or in the future, right? Because Nika, we really haven't been able to see what she can do.
Nope.
Fortunately, with her injuries and stuff, but we know she's a great player. So it's also in the mind of the GM, like, where do they see things right now?
Yeah.
And what are they trying to accomplish now or later? Like, what are we looking at? But based on how they've been playing, I'm looking at the now. And Erica Wheeler.
Yeah. Listen, now another player that was tough to try and figure out is Ezi Magbegor, because I honestly think that the ability to, whether it's through expansion or she's still going to be a UFA, even if she's not taken by Toronto or Portland in the expansion draft. Although I personally, for Ezi's sake, Ezi to Toronto to be reunited with Sandy Brondello, her national team coach, where Ezi Magbegor went off for a 30-piece to get them a bronze medal at the Paris 2024 Olympics. Yeah, I want to write that I want to talk about it on We Need to Talk Now. So as much as I do think Ezi has put in a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for this Seattle Storm team, I can see a world in which it might be better for all parties, and that's kind of a wild thing to say. But I do like the idea of Ezi getting an opportunity to play a role that's more suited for her in a system and on a team that has room to allow her to play and to reach her highest potential in the WNBA.
First of all, let me find out you can sing because you hit that note. Second, this is bringing up something for me. When I think about being unprotected, right? It is a hard decision to protect or unprotect somebody. But what I'm excited about for the players that will be moving into these expansion teams is a lot of these players that we're saying so hard to pick this or that, those players that aren't necessarily picked and are picked up get the opportunity of a lifetime to build an expansion team from the ground up, to be the first on these teams and to shine in the way that they deserve to shine. We saw that on the Valkyries, and they all came together and said, listen, this is our time. And they did the dang thing for an expansion team. They set records, made history, and players that weren't getting the recognition that should have been getting it did. And that's the thing that I'm excited for these players, that we're just kind of like, I don't know, they're going to get that, and they deserve to get that.
Yep. I think Ezi is one of those players. So we'll see what Seattle ends up doing. I do think this is going to be an intriguing season overall for Seattle, because there was a lot of attention. Obviously, they moved on from their head coach, Noelle Quinn. And I think there's some great things that the front office has done in the past handful of years. And there are also some questionable things and questionable comparative to the field, because you can look insular, but also you are compared and judged and ranked, right, by how you're competing against other teams. Wins and losses. It's a wins and losses business. And I think there's some things that Seattle needs to open up and be even more innovative when it comes to certain things. And so this is going to be a really good test for the Seattle squad. Now, Dallas. Now Dallas is interesting, because Dallas is a special place that has a lot of things that they got to work out. We've known this about Dallas. They are a franchise that has not been able to keep up with, I was going to say the Joneses, but I'm talking the Wilsons, the Ionescus, they're not the Clarks. They're having difficulty finding their footing in today's WNBA. Now they always get a high pick, but at some point you gotta turn that into, isn't there a parable, right? Like if you get the coin and you bury the coin, is that what you were supposed to do? Or are you supposed to turn that into more coins? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And Dallas, they keep burying their coins.
Yeah, you can't bury coins. It's just not something you're supposed to do.
You got to make the money make money.
Yeah. And not to just put her down to a coin, but you got Paige Beckers on your team. There is absolutely no way on God's earth that you don't protect her. Don't throw her in there.
We do it. Now the rest of Dallas is interesting.
It is. It's kind of like, I'm not saying that I don't have a 5, but it's kind of rough. It's kind of rough. I'm uncomfortable.
I'll say it. I don't have a 5. Not 5. Yeah. Not all the way. I don't have an all the way live, all the way 5. I got a 3 and a possible.
3 and a possible. Well, let's throw in Maddie.
Maddie Siegrist. Yeah.
I feel like she's on there for sure. Lee Rue, who was an addition, but
she's from Seattle.
From Seattle, in addition to the squad. Number one, she really enjoyed her time there. You could tell. But also, she is a big impact player in her position. I don't think there's a lot of players like her in her position that you would even want to replace her with currently. And I just feel like she's just a great addition to any team that she's on. So I would protect her.
Yeah, I agree. And so the possible comes with, it's kind of wild to say. I can't believe I'm about to say it, but I'm gonna say it. The possible is Arike Ogunbowale. And I feel like this is the team for me. Like, if I'm only thinking about, you want to keep your assets, you protect Arike. If you think a little bit, this is a team where I can see a little bit more of, we've had conversations. Was Arike going to be a trade piece for Dallas? We've been having this conversation, and it's just making me wonder, where are these conversations coming from? But again, I'm not blaming a player, but at some point, for the player's sake, for the organization's sake, again, how deep can we bury this same coin, expecting it to make more money? You gotta move some things sometimes, and it would be heartbreaking, because Arike can be a game-changing player. But the situation in Dallas just doesn't. I feel like we're running out of real estate here to figure out if that is going to work.
And does she even want to be there is the question.
Right. Well. That's a good point.
However, from a standpoint of looking even at the fact that we can't pick 5, do you even gamble and not protect her? Because I just don't think you cannot protect her, because you don't have a lot to protect. So
yeah, I mean, it's just so much young talent, and I think that's, maybe we see Dallas might be a team where, maybe these expansion squads, because they're building chemistry from the ground up. They're building culture from the ground up. There's a lot of young talent on this Dallas squad that I think, in the right situation. I mean, Diamond Miller came over late, right, in the season in a trade, and we really didn't get to see what Diamond Miller could do on the squad. Kind of didn't seem like the fit was right anymore for a win now mode Minnesota, but that doesn't mean that the right situation in Dallas or elsewhere could work. And so it's not saying that Ty Harris or some of these other players, they're not solid WNBA players. It's just a matter of, again, this is the business side of it, and who do you need to keep in Dallas to function and do what you need to do? There are a lot of players that, in some ways, it's almost like Dallas. We're looking at what is, maybe you look at an expansion style roster in that it's a little bit of veterans. It's a little bit of plug and play players. It's some players that maybe didn't have an opportunity to fully showcase their skill, and they end up all on Dallas together. And do you have the right personnel to bring it all together? Right. Dallas is a very intriguing team to me, and I'm very curious to see what they do. But you're probably right. If we only have a possible 4, maybe 5, then how do you not protect Arike?
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. That's also why I'm not the GM.
That's why I was like, and that's why I kept telling y'all I ain't a GM. But y'all got to let us know in the comments. What do y'all think? We do have another team, speaking of Diamond Miller, who came over from Dallas. Now, she was traded as part of that DiJonai Carrington trade. Now, before we get to Carrington, and is she going to make this list? I think we know who is we not argue with your mama with the brick wall, argue in outer space, because I'll tell you what, these Minnesota Lynx are protecting Napheesa Collier.
No question. And I have to put in the same vein, Kayla McBride.
Come on.
In the same, not Erica.
Come on. That's what shooter. Come on, the shooter. Listen. Come on, don't play me like that.
Just had to clarify it. But literally, Kayla McBride, she does everything. Kayla McBride, Napheesa obviously, but Kayla McBride is right there with her in my book.
I agree.
There's no world in which I'm not protecting a Kayla McBride.
I agree. And you know what? The muscle, the grit, the sandpaper, the moxie, almost got through that New York Liberty squad. Man, if Alana Smith don't go down with an injury, we might be talking about something else. You can talk about officiating all you want. I'm telling you, I already told you I'm a New Yorker. I'm telling you right now, Alana Smith had me nervous. Was she healthy? Had she been healthy in all of game 5? Because remember, it was only a 5-game series then. That might have been a different story. So yeah. For Minnesota's sake, you're protecting Alana Smith.
Have to. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So Courtney Williams, I personally would say protect Courtney. Protect her as well. But then do you go a DiJonai or do you go a Heidemann?
For me, it's going to be Carrington. Now, we didn't get to see Carrington tap out completely or reach her potential completely in Minnesota. Unfortunately, she got sidelined with an injury. Minnesota got decimated with injuries at the wrong time in what was a great season. But you know how I feel about defense. And Carrington also starting to find her shot and her confidence offensively. For me, it's got to be DiJonai Carrington.
Okay, I can see that. I lean a little towards Heidemann for so many reasons. We talk about these players who are, role players. They know their role. I think she definitely does. No, you don't agree with that? Oh, maybe you do. Okay, your face was reading a little like I wasn't sure. I was like, ooh.
I do.
But also the chemistry aspect. I hate to bring this in, but you're going to break up the stud buds? Like, come on now. But also just looking at being a player as well, I just feel like all of these components on this Minnesota squad really, fuel it. Like whether it be play, the chemistry, the players working together, all of those things. They're so close. We've seen them. They're right there. And it's like, I just don't know if I want to break up what we have seen on the court that has been working. And I'm not saying DiJonai wouldn't do that. We saw she did, but then the injury came into play. And so that would make me lean towards a Heidemann over a DiJonai for that.
I mean, that's a good point, because if you end up losing Heidemann, then and Carrington again is getting that shot, but then you need another clinical shooter to come in for sure, because that is what Natisha Heidemann has been able to give. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just telling you what I feel comfortable with, and I want to know I got somebody who can get me a stop on defense.
Now you're right. You're right about that. Now, like I'm here for that. We all
because this is a squad that's fitting to suit up, lace it up, and try and get to another finals.
Without a doubt, right there.
So yeah. So I mean, and that's wild. Like it's like again, do not envy. I hope these GMs, I don't know what is the process? Like, there's not a CBA for GMs, but like y'all, I hope y'all are feeling appreciated, because the league done put y'all in a bad spot. We're talking about 2 teams on, in this upcoming expansion draft. And then there's more expansion. They just got through an expansion draft. Yeah. You got 2 expansion teams. And then what is it? Another 3 before 2030?
Yes.
Hello. Who's got the hair dye? Because the stress,
the disruption.
I'm stressed as a podcast co-host. I can't even imagine.
Listen, we went over this before we even started, and it was a lot to sift through, and we were just like, how do you even do this? So literal hats off to the GMs, the front offices, everybody who's working so hard, and especially in this timeline. We actually want to talk about some other dates that you should put down in this timeline as well. April 9th, free agency starts. Important. Put that down. Mm-hmm. April 13th is the WNBA draft for college. So the draft that we all know, not the expansion, but that actual draft. Not that they're both not important. I didn't want to belittle that. April 25th, preseason starts right around the corner, child. April 19th, training camp starts. And then May 8th is opening night. So put those all on your calendar, because all of this movement is happening like this, and this, and we're there. So before we know it, we're going to see how all of these squads move, how they all work together. And it's going to be a beautiful season. I'm really looking forward to it. That magic that we had with the Valkyries, I really think we're going to have in these other 2 teams in different ways. It'll be amazing to see how these players shine. And also with free agency, it's just going to be staggering to see all of the movement in all of these teams. So we're going to be looking at a different WNBA come May 8th.
100%. I mean, I'm excited for it. And we were like, yeah, we'll just do this explainer real quick. But we had to get into it because it's tough. And we didn't even talk about all the teams, Alicia, which is wild.
Yeah, we didn't. And I know we will moving forward. Make sure you're locked in, subscribe, like, do all of the things, because we're going to have so many more of these pods coming at you, whether it be with WNBA, NCAA tournament, all of the things. We got the Major League Volleyball All-Star game coming up. There's so many things in women's sports that we will be talking about, and we're so glad that we're locked in right here with you every week, twice a week, however many times we come at you on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.